Hello, everyone, and welcome in to another first. We streamed the first ever college football best ball draft on this channel. We made history. We're going to make history again. We are going to do the first ever streamed Battle Royale college football draft on underdog.com, Underdog Fantasy. If you have not deposited, if you've not signed up, this is like a very limited time for you to be getting your money in good. Underdog is doing a $1,000 deposit match. You can get that using promo code Davis. There's a link to that in the description of this. I am joined by FearMyTurtle, Mr. Alex Hardin from Establish the Run. You guys can go purchase the premium college football DFS NCAA fantasy football package from EstablishTheRun.com. We're going to be drafting some battle royales. We're going to be talking about the week 1 college football DFS slate. It's here, man. It's fall. It's beautiful. Actually, it's not fall at all in America right now. It is 8:58 Central Time right now, Alex, and it is about 97 degrees outside of my house. It's fucking miserable.
Yeah, it's been a hot summer. Yeah, you know this thing called global warming. Yeah, something to it maybe.
Just unreal. I have these puppies in my house right now. I'm taking them outside. Like when we get done, I'm gonna go take them out, and they're gonna be like, dude, I don't want to do this. But college football has returned. I mean, we already got college football to me is back when DJU is, my entire timeline is just tweeting about DJU. We've got a bunch of games this week. The official start on Thursday. There are a ton of games. It's a 10-game slate. We've got North Carolina AT&T, North Carolina State, Lafayette. We got our Maction starting hard then, but we are going to be drafting battle royales for the Saturday main slate, correct?
Yep, Saturday main slate. The Battle Royale is definitely a different beast than DFS slates. I like their approach. They pick like 4 games from the early window, 4 afternoon games, and then like an island night game. So it's pretty fun 9-game slate on the Underdog Battle Royale schedule. And yeah, definitely excited to draft some teams, talk a little bit about strategy. It's definitely a new format for me. So we'll try to mix your history playing battle royale, some of the strategy with me knowing some of the players. So yeah, it should be a good one.
Yeah, I'm planning on going pretty hard on NFL battle royale this year. I mean, one, it's just like, it's very good content because I can just sit here and draft and hang out for an hour. And that's very similar to what I've been doing all summer. And also over on Endgame Syndicate, Nerdy Tenor and a lot of those guys have been doing strategy videos about battle royale. So I'm not going to pretend that I know a lot about the players. Any player take that I'm able to add is probably going to be from NCAA 25. No, actually, I have a couple player takes actually based on drafting. I think I got 27 entries in the big one. So I got a couple player takes, but why don't we go ahead and register for the first one, and we can just find out. I'll give you a spoiler alert for my first player take. I'm totally buying this Dylan Raiola thing. I'm a big Dylan Raiola slappy, and I believe Nebraska is on this slate against a cream puff. If I'm pretty sure I'm right about that.
Yeah, they're playing Temple. I think it'd be a good spot for him to get some, take some downfield shots. Not sure exactly what that offense is going to look like, but they have a receiver I like, and maybe we can snag him in one of these drafts. Yeah,
Banks. Yeah,
there you go.
So
you're on it.
We got the 101, which is actually for Battle Royale very, very interesting because we'll be able to control, whoever you think is like the stone best play of this slate, and we can build backwards. So a big part of Battle Royale basically is doing ownership percentages, but you kind of have to do it. You kind of have to do it in your head. Like there's not going to be anywhere reliable. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you and Sean could build something out to kind of estimate, but like to do the NFL example, it would be, let's say the Chiefs have a 28. Well, I'll continue. You take who you think the best play of the slate is.
Yeah, I just think the stone best play of this slate is Jaden Blue from Texas. With all the running back injuries they've had, they have an easy matchup, but it's a real team in that they should be able to keep it competitive, at least for the first half. And I don't think the quarterback options are great on this slate. There's definitely a drop-off, I think, after the first 3 quarterbacks. But when you're only taking 6 in a draft, I think this is definitely a slate where you could probably wait a little bit on quarterback. So I think blue is just the best play of the slate. So I've been taking him at 1-1, but that might be wrong. I don't know.
So again, I'm not going to know the projections of these players as well as you would. What I would say is the NFL comp would be like, there's a ton of value in just not having combinations that are super common. Like, and NFL is like a little bit, the contests are a little bit bigger. I think it's normally 10K to first. Maybe it's a little bit more. I honestly couldn't say off the top of my head, but quarterback pairings in NFL are the most obvious one to go off the board. Like, no one is going to project close to Christian McCaffrey, but how different is Trevor Lawrence's projection on a Sunday going to be from Lamar? Like, Lamar will probably project for 3 more points, but then you start to factor in the discrepancy of their ownership, where Lamar in a battle royale slate is going to be 95% owned, maybe 100% owned. Trevor Lawrence might be, I don't know, let's call it 10% owned off the top of my head. Actually, the best example, Brian Hooper gave me this one, is at tight end, which, by the way, I did get a message from Underdog. They didn't include tight end to screw us over. It was either they don't give us a college football in-season product, or they just essentially copy and paste the NFL product, which has tight ends in it. And I mean, you offer that to me personally, I think I'm taking this option. Like, I just think this is fun.
Yeah, I mean, also introduces some more strategy, because we're not used to dealing with tight ends specifically in like college football DFS, because obviously they're just combined with the wide receivers. But I think like a standout tight end could put a premium on them in this kind of format. Yeah. So like the top 3 quarterbacks went off the board right after us. So like on this specific slate, like I'm fine waiting on quarterback, like even to like the last round. There's not much separating the next tier of quarterbacks, like even down through like Mertz. Like Garrett Green's an awesome fantasy play, but draws one of the worst matchups possible. Ward's solid. Beck's
Yeah, I was going
solid.
to say
Raiola.
Ward is who I gravitated towards. But again, that becomes you see his ADP is 22.5. It's like he's probably going to be owned in 50% of these. What is Drew Aller going to be owned in these? 30% or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I can do this math off the top of my head, and it's definitely going to be a little bit of a learning curve. But I would not hate doing Restrepo and Ward here.
Yeah. So what I say is receiver. I agree with you in Restrepo. Receiver is pretty rough on the slate. Actually, yeah, I agree with that. There's more of a premium in wide receiver in this format as compared to like the best ball drafts I did, for sure. On this slate, there's not a lot of projectable wide receiver volume. Like I think Jeremiah Smith's being overdrafted and overprojected here. So I'm good, like even like closing out receiver here and taking like Restrepo, Wilson in the same game.
Okay.
Eugene Wilson's awesome. He's one of my favorite players in college football. A lot of stuff near the goal line, but he does score enough in terms of touchdowns to be relevant. So like the highest 2 projectable volume receivers on the slate. I'm glad to take them there.
I've got a very hot take as it pertains to the Texas wide receivers. This probably is not, well, maybe it is helpful for this. I think Matthew Golden, who's been running with like the backups and stuff for most of like the spring game and everything, I just think he's really good. And I think that by like week 5 or something, again, I don't know what their playing time is going to be like this year, but I think he ends up really working his way into the UT rotation. I don't know a ton about their other wide receivers, I guess, which would be an issue, but I think he's very good.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of question marks. Like, I think there's going to be a rotation regardless. And like Golden was someone I was drafting early in best ball, but then reports came out he was like running with the backups. I cooled on him a little bit, but like none of these guys, they lost a lot of returning production. So I mean, like Cook, question mark, like he's a big time recruit. Like he should pop this year, but we don't really know. Isaiah Bond, like everyone's drafting him like he's like next Xavier Worthy in this offense. I'm just not quite sure about that. So I kind of like the take on Golden. You never really know how the playing time is going to shake out in week 1. So like even in this format, you could like take a Golden with Ewers, and it'll be pretty unique.
Yeah. Okay. I interrupted myself earlier. So like the best example for NFL is like tight end, where like the tight end 5 who projects for 8.2 points gets drafted 90% of the time, but then the tight end 8 who projects for 7.8 points gets drafted 15% of the time. So the move is just identifying whatever spot that is, going down to G. Scott Jr.,
Preston Howard's got a lot of hype for Maryland. They've used their tight ends in the past. They don't have Baby Tua anymore, so I think their passing game may be a little less downfield. So maybe more running back and tight end stuff. Like, I don't know, like someone like Howard could easily be the highest scoring tight end on the slate. Although I think Warren's in a tier of his own. Like, I will have like Warren out projecting Delp by a significant margin in our stuff. So for me, it's like Warren, the rest of the tight ends, and then like someone, like Preston Howard's just not going to go drafted very often. I think it makes sense.
Would you do Drew Aller in something like this, or is the passing volume you think just like too relatively low for this?
They have a new offensive coordinator. They have the Kansas offensive coordinator, so I think this offense is going to be a bit more exciting. Aller obviously can't run like some of those Kansas quarterbacks, but I think it'll be there'll be more creativity in the offense and less of him just like standing there handing the ball off, being a statue. So he's more interesting this year, I think. So if we could get like a Warren just went, but if he was on the board, like I wouldn't mind like taking like a Warren Aller pairing, but Cam Ward's still on the board. Like we're building a pretty chalky team. So
we're gonna have to go off the rails. We're gonna have to do something weird with a couple of our final picks, but I bet 2 players to win Heisman this year. One of them was Cam Ward, and the other one I did use an odds boost on Avery Johnson. It's a little bit of a homer pick. I mean, he's the first ever 5-star quarterback to attend my alma mater. Yeah, I think we go Cam Ward here, and then I think we scroll a little bit for
a sneaky back. Yeah, sneaky take. So I think like Trevor Etienne's getting drafted pretty early. Like he went 17th in this draft. Hasn't been announced yet. I think he's going to be suspended for the opener and not play. They have a couple other running backs banged up, so I think it's going to be Branson Robinson kind of being the lead back there. So there's a bit of a projection there to get there, but like I think it'll be pretty unique. At least helps us get off the board a little bit. And with our last pick, we have a tight end. Like in this situation, would you go like scroll down and like try to take someone I think like
with
a Preston Howard or
that Restrepo Ward combo? Or I mean, I assume that is going to be like big time doubled up on where a lot of times the Ward drafter is going to have Restrepo.
Or you could even do something like taking like the Miami tight end, Elijah Arroyo. I don't know tons about him, but they typically use the offense, the tight end a bit in Miami. So would you go for the correlation or more of like even the further off the board take?
I think I'd go further off the board just because of Ward, how he plays. Like I mean, he did play at Washington State last year, so he got lots of attempts, but Ward, when he was at, what was it? I think he literally played at Incarnate Ward. Wasn't that the name of the school?
I actually forget where he came from, but he ran quite a bit. Yeah.
I think they tried to kind of make him an NFL player. I think that's what they promised him at Washington State was, we'll try and put you on the NFL radar. So they wanted him to be more of a drop back passer, and it just didn't really work that well. This was gonna be my take was Fedone. I don't even
actually like him. We're gonna save our Rayola double stack for the next draft, maybe.
Yeah, it's just like the Nebraska thing is like one. I just would love for Nebraska to be good again. Like college football is better when Miami's good. College football is better when Nebraska's good. But Rayola being like, no, I'm a 5-star recruit and I'm going to play with fucking Frank Reich in Nebraska. I'm like, that guy, you got to have balls to be a 5-star recruit and be like, I'm going to Nebraska. Because a lot of quarterbacks have gone to Nebraska and washed out.
Yeah, well, Nebraska's doing this thing where they hire relatives of all the 5-star guys coming out, and that's how they've gotten their 2 5-stars.
I mean, that's just good business. That's just good business.
Exactly, but it'll be fun. He seemed like he had a good spring game. I'm excited to see him in some live action. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up and take a bit of a homer pick here and Preston Howard off the board. What do you think about when you draft these? Like, my thought process was like earlier, right when it's
Earlier
released and
is
there's no ADP,
yes.
like it's more player takes. You're just trying to build super teams, and then as the ADP settles and things get sharper, like you're looking more at correlation and then like differentiation.
Yes. So I
Okay.
think particularly for college football, you really want to go, like you'd want to be hammering these like right now. Because like think about this. Once you guys publish your projections on, I guess what you normally do Thursdays for the main slate.
By Thursday, a lot of times out earlier. This week might be a little later in the week, but yeah, all these games are on FanDuel, so you can just pull our FanDuel projections and kind of make your own ranks. We're not doing anything, at least this week, in terms of actual under battle royale ranks, but yeah, we'll have projections for all these games.
So these contests are just not that big in terms of the total number of people who play. They're big. They're much big. Actually, I did not think they would do 5,000 a first in week one. So they're big. They're big that way, but they're not big in terms of the total number of people who are playing. You're probably largely playing against people who have a good idea of what's going on, which means I think you draft really early. Like I think you draft like Mondays and Tuesdays before you guys publish your stuff, and then Saturday mornings. I mean that because then you've got it's best ball season compressed into one thing. Where like early on you're betting your hunches that are going to be pretty good, and later on you're saying I'm going to have a better ability to handle this information. Your Friday night, Saturday morning ones can be your real scroll the fuck down ones where you're being like, I'm not even taking Judkins or Henderson or Ikbuk. Like I'm just passing those guys entirely. I'm taking I'm taking Dylan Raiola with my first pick. I'm doing an entire unowned roster full of guys.
Okay, so like stuff like that's like is an approach in NFL.
It's not in NFL because the high end running backs score so much. So like there are
Okay.
only so many running backs who, like, if a slate has McCaffrey and Bijan and Brees, but Gibbs isn't on it, you might have a 4-point delta from those guys to the next guys at running back. So it just you'd be giving up so many projected points, and the contests aren't large enough. But you know this from playing college football. Like you could just show if there's not a, I don't know, I'm trying to think, like who would Western Kentucky Bowling Green on a Saturday slate where it's like a 75-point total, no other totals higher than 50. Like there are spots like that where you just have to eat the chalk. But there are a lot of times on a college football Saturday slate where there are 5 games that are all kind of have a total at like 63, and the chalk condenses on one of the games, but the third game might be the game you really want. So I think that's probably the way to go about it. But maybe that's wrong.
No, but it's also early in the season. Like we're working on lots of assumptions, lots of camp reports, some depth chart stuff mixed in. Like things can go sideways pretty fast. So I think early in the season, especially, take some shots in some places. Like that's why I like the Raiola call in this slate, just because. Yeah, I mean, maybe Temple's offense is a little bit better than expected, and that game stays within 3 touchdowns the whole time, and like Raiola just goes nuts because Temple's defense is terrible. Like, yeah, I think that, yeah, and a lot of these big, like the higher drafted, like Ewers, Will Howard, like these teams are massive favorites. Like they're no lock to have any sort of upside. Like I think they're pretty safe floor wise, but like I don't think Ewers is hitting 30 on this slate. Probably not Howard. We're going to see some other quarterbacks play for these teams.
Well, the only thing would be if either of these teams, whether it be Howard or what, Ewers specifically, it would not surprise me if Texas kind of wants him to get Heisman votes. I mean, because teams kind of do that stuff in the NFL, but teams really, really do that in college football. Like Jaden Daniels would just be out chucking 70-yard touchdowns to Brian Thomas Jr. like up 27 points against Coastal Carolina or whatever. Like they really wanted Jaden Daniels to win the Heisman. So you do need to process things like that.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be tough for Ohio State. Like if they stay healthy with Judkins, Henderson splitting so much of the running back stuff, and then Howard, like they're gonna like eat into each other's like Heisman potential, I think. And Chip Kelly being their offensive coordinator is just
I know
it's gonna be crazy. Like I think they just like lean on that run game. Like I'm curious to see how much they want Howard to do in terms of throwing the ball downfield. Obviously, they have great wide receivers as well. Like it's just an absolute loaded team.
It is. I mean, I thought it was dumb of Judkins to go to Ohio State. I don't know. I thought it was dumb for Henderson to stay because it was such a weak running back class, and I thought it was weird for Judkins
The
to
problem is like
go
these
there.
guys are making so much in NIL money now compared to like it's not even that much of a pay cut, and it's probably an easier season in college. Um, I don't know. I think you're going to see some of these guys that just like aren't insanely talented, like Bijan, who's just like a separator. I don't think Henderson or Judkins are that to that level. I think you're going to see these level like running backs stay in college longer, just because it's probably a better life.
That's true. Also, this is a pretty good take on Ewers and UT, which is that their running back room, they had 2 guys go out for the year already. What the first not Jaden, CJ Baxter, and then another Charles something that make or Wisner. Someone else got hurt.
Wisner's there, yeah. I'd have
Okay.
to pull up my depth chart. Maybe it was like Clark. I forget his name specifically, but yeah, they're already down 2 running backs. Yeah, I mean the pushback on Ewers garbage time stuff is that they have a guy named Arch Manning sitting there who they probably want to see.
What
I
is the
think
deal there? I mean, he's got to be pissed off that Ewers didn't declare, right?
I don't know. Like he's making a lot of money, both like yeah, like all these endorsement deals. Like he's just sitting there. Like I think by the time he actually plays, like he'll be super ready to go. I don't know. There had to be some sort of plan there, but I think everyone wants to see him play some more this year. So I don't know. I think Ewers could have a short leash near the end of games. Like the boosters probably wanted to see Arch Manning. The fans do, coaching staff as well. So I don't know. That would be my pushback on the Ewers garbage time stuff. I just don't see a situation where they can get him. Like I think there's a good chance he goes to New York for the Heisman ceremony, but a really low chance that Ewers actually can win it.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to look at the Heisman market, and none of them seemed really that appeal. Like Carson Beck to win the Heisman feels
Yeah.
insane. Feels like no chance. I mean, I believe he's the favorite right now on most of the plays. That felt crazy to me. Like, how could that happen?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to win games. He's going to put up some stats. Like they threw the ball a bit more last year than they had in the past. Like he's actually pretty impressive. I think you just don't really think of like the Georgia offense. Like the problem is they play so many players, so they're not as relevant for DFS and fantasy stuff. But like efficiency and like power ratings perspective, they're always near. They had been near the top in like the top 5 the last few years in offensive categories as well. Like he's just really solid, and that's the problem with the Heisman market. Unless you get in really early, there's just not going to be that many good values once like you account for who is actually live to win the award.
How many games would K-State have to win if Avery ran for 1,100 yards and 14 touchdowns? Could they do it? Could they
10
do it
or
with
like
10?
11,
Yeah.
10 and make the playoff.
Well, the Big 12, I was going to say the expanded playoff helps. The Big 12 not having Oklahoma and Texas anymore helps. I think the coach is I think he's incredible. I think he's really, really good. I mean, obviously the concern would be Avery is like less accomplished as a passer than Will Howard. Like he just hasn't shown much yet. I believe he also is so small. It's crazy for a guy to be a running quarterback and to look as slight as he did. I hope he's a little bigger this year. All right, we got this one filled.
Yeah, we saw some glimpses of him last year. He's definitely explosive on the ground. So like he's the kind of guy you want yeah.
He had like a 29-point game playing like the second half of one of the games. Like he kind of, I mean, no one makes cross-racial comparisons anymore, but kind of Anthony Richardson-y, where the throwing is like I mean, he doesn't have the same physical tools that Richardson does with the arm, but this right here, picking at 5, great spot to just get weird, because we're gonna miss on your boy Jaden Blue. We think the quarterback tier is kind of flat. I don't know what to think about a 50 team total Ohio State, really.
Yeah, that one's tough because that puts us into like the territory of a lot of Ohio State guys, which not necessarily in love with.
This is like an ideal spot to just be like, okay, I drew a weird slot. my clear 101 is not going to be there. I mean, maybe you feel differently. Maybe you really like one of the Ohio State running backs more than the other. But this to me, just again, I don't know that much about the players, but structurally, this would be if we kind of don't love Ohio State, would be a spot to just go off the board.
Yeah, I like Henderson more than Judkins.
Okay.
That may change at some point, but if Ewers goes one blue.
I think this is too Galaxy Brain to go with like third straight. I just they're not gonna play enough relative to like the Texas guys or the Miami guys or whatever.
Yeah, and it's not even like the third string. Once they get to the third string territory, it's third, fifth, and fifth running back like getting rotated in as well.
There's going to be like non-scholarship running backs playing in this game.
Interesting.
I would do Travion here. I think that's. Oh, or do we go with Bond? Do we go? We say wide receiver's pretty flat, or is there another wide receiver you really like? Is there a high end guy we're missing?
Not really at all. I think you got to take one of the. I think like Henderson's the play here.
Cool.
But on the other side, maybe if Bond's there, I like Restrepo more than Bond on the slate by a decent amount.
Yeah, I mean, I like Restrepo. I like Cam Ward. I mean, I'm already looking forward to the DK slate on Saturday, being like, well, I'm probably just gonna make like 5 Cam Ward teams and build around that. So I'm looking through this slate and I'm like, okay, we've got.
Okay, we're up again.
Yeah, let's do Restrepo
season.
and we don't have to take Cam Ward. We don't have to take Cam Ward on this one. What about I guess the Penn State defense is too good to consider Garrett Green?
No, I mean I think he's in play. Like they played last year. Garrett Green had like 21, 22 fantasy points. He'll score rushing touchdowns near the goal line. Line's actually moved towards West Virginia. I think it's like 8.5 now. I think he'll be okay. He just doesn't. This is not a great matchup, obviously. And I think he's draftable. He's going to project in the same range as Cam Ward. I think like the Miami Florida game could be a little bit slow and maybe not the most back and forth type of game, but we'll see. I'm interested to see how much they ride Damian Martinez, the transfer from Oregon State.
He's got a little bit of wiggle. What do you think about Etienne's little brother? You said he's maybe suspended for this game?
Yeah, I think that's what's most likely to happen. He had an DUI in the offseason. They've been alluding to things like it could be a first half suspension. The way the coaches are talking, it seems like it might be a full game. I'm just kind of ignoring him. I think he's not going to be playing the whole game.
Okay. We are back up. I do like Roman Hemby. He's pretty interesting. I also would not hate doing a Garrett Green. Up to you.
I do want to go for the Raiola thing.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do the Raiola thing.
Can we wait?
Let's take Singleton.
Take Singleton, and then like try to do a Raiola thing.
Well, no, let's start scrolling down right now. Let's take Raiola next, then we'll take Jamal Banks, and we could take a weirdo tight end. That Amari Niblack guy. I took a shit ton of him in the
not the best camp reports on him. Yeah, I have a lot of him too, but like I've heard some things where he's may not be a lock to like fill in the Jatavian Sanders role, but yeah, I guess
let's do Raiola. Should
we take Banks first since
let's take Banks first. Yeah. Look, if you get sniped, if someone snipes us, they snipe us. That we're living our truth out here. Jalen Conyers was the guy I think was my most drafted guy. I was just like, he was like a 20th round pick, and he was really good 2 years. He's at Texas Tech, right? He was really good 2 years ago and then bad last year, but I had a ton of him.
You gotta love a tight end who runs goal line wildcat. He did at
that's like crack for me. A tight end, like anyone who you could be like, oh, he's kind of like Taysom Hill. I'm like sold, and could not be more in. I'm trying to go through this slate to see if there's anyone else. Diego Pavia, he was very fun last year, but Virginia Tech's defense, aren't they just like a wagon?
I mean, they're solid. It's just going to be a huge step up from him,
Yeah.
coming from New Mexico State. But he's fun. Yeah, like he's going to do stuff. Like I just don't know what happens when you drop him in the SEC for the long term. So
I'm trying to see if there's anyone else that I think is interesting here. Syracuse is not in this, correct? They're not. They're not
yeah,
in
they're
this
not
slate.
in this. Speaking of the DK main slate, they whiffed a bit on Syracuse pricing. So that's going to be
Yeah, Aronde Gadsden is 3,500.
Yeah, he missed most of last season with an injury, but it's a whole new coaching staff, but like he's their best pass catcher. So he's going to be a decision point on the DFS slate, as in like how much of him do you play?
What about the Notre Dame Texas A&M game? Right, Riley Leonard is the Notre Dame quarterback now. Is that right? The guy from Duke.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about Notre Dame's offensive line. They lost their left tackle.
All right.
Texas A&M's D line solid. Like that, I like the Texas A&M side on that game.
I was gonna say Notre Dame starting their season with either a loss or like a very, very narrow get out of there with a win against Texas A&M is so on brand. Gadsden is not in this slate, but if he was, he'd be classified as a tight end. I don't think we double Raiola, right? I think we want him to run a little bit.
I don't know how much he's going to run. I think you're just gunning for touchdowns, but we can take if you have another.
I was gonna say let's scroll. Let's just you find someone who's like tight end like 13. But we could take Preston Howard again. Or we could take Fedone. I mean, he's got a cool name, Thomas Fedone II. It's pretty badass name.
We're going all Preston Howard. But that that like team's interesting. I think it's going to be pretty. I mean, Raiola is getting drafted a bit, but
he's getting drafted a bit. But I'm going to guess, unless you guys have a monster projection on him when you put your stuff. I do think, by the way, that's like ETR is definitely the biggest site for all this stuff. So like preseason DFS. Cody stuff is a huge driver of ownership and of the way the field plays for college football. Your guys' stuff is a huge driver. I mean, you guys are going to be a giant drive. There are only 11,304 entrants in this. So if you are drafting after Thursday, chances are you're drafting off someone who's stone drafting off of Establish the Run FanDuel points, which is you just got to keep that stuff in mind. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe the
do you want to fire up one more?
Oh yeah, for sure. Let's do one. Okay. Let's do one more. I think the if the Badge Bros stream these and are doing stuff for these, maybe that makes it my goal. I would just like to make these bigger because I think this is a very fun way to play college football DFS. So I would love for these to get even bigger.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I haven't really done many for NFL, but I do the Battle Royale for golf a lot because it's like it's like Showdown. It's very easy to draft, obviously, without the correlation. These actually take a little bit more time. What are your thoughts on like, are there people who auto draft these and like, are those teams just dead without the correlation in this format, or is it just how you rank your players?
No, you're definitely dead in this without correlation. Yeah, I know people auto draft NBA because they like to get 150 in, and the correlations in NBA don't matter as much. I believe there are some people who auto draft MLB. I would maybe need to get more info on that, but some people do. But then you're still unless what you'd have to do is you'd have to just MLB is probably actually the perfect sport for Battle Royale because it's like the New York Yankees have a 5.2 implied team total, and the Cleveland Guardians have and the Cleveland Guardians go completely unowned. The Cleveland Guardians 5-hole hitter is literally 1% owned. Yeah. I just as I was thinking through that, MLB is easy to auto because you just set your rankings up for an unowned team more or less and just auto it based off of that. So, but football, I feel like it'd just be dead teams. You would just have because you wouldn't get You wouldn't get your quarterback stacked, and then you'd just be stone dead.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think we're going to be taking a quarterback, whoever falls between Ewers and Drones. I think I like here. That build us out a bit of a different team than our last two.
Is Drones gonna throw enough for you to want to stack him, or do you do him naked? Well, I think we take Ewers anyway.
Yeah, let's do Ewers. Drones is fine stackable. I wouldn't necessarily double stack him, but he throws the ball downfield a lot. All right, Ewers. Let's see. Bond may not get to us.
I think let's take who's I guess, but it's Bond, Cook, and then who's the third guy?
I like Bolden. Bolden.
Yes, from Oregon State.
Yeah, he's kind of awesome.
Let's save a wide receiver pick for Bolden. Let's do him. Let's do him in round 6.
Also, I think Ewers is the kind of guy you typically would. I mean, double stacking is better than most college quarterbacks.
He's not gonna run. He's not gonna run at all. Any chance you guys can run through some CFB pick'em options? I mean, sure we can, but I literally don't even have access to them. I literally can't even pull them up because I'm in a landlocked state. We're drafting on Alex's screen right now. I can't even enter these.
Yeah, that's one thing we're doing more this year. We're focusing on player prop stuff, so we're holding a lot of that back until later in the week. So I don't have any specific takes to give out here, but we have a props discussion channel in our Discord, and a little bit later in the week we'll drop some props for sure. It's definitely an interesting market, dealing with all just like the cat and mouse between the books and numbers moving and stuff. Do you want to take a running back and save?
I was going to say, let's take Tootin, Bashal Tootin, because we just took Ewers instead of Drones.
Yeah.
So I think anytime you take a first round quarterback that's not Drones, you gain a little bit of leverage versus the Drones teams when you take his running back.
Yeah, Tootin's awesome play too. Virginia Tech's in a good spot, like perfect spread, like 2 touchdown favorites. So yeah, definitely like Tootin.
I will. I'll give out a play for this game. I'll give out Chez Malusi lower 62.5 rushing yards. I hate it. He's like a 9th year player. It's like a 9th year player.
All right, you want to take Cook now?
Well, do you want to
or are we trying to get him? Like the Bolden Niblack late?
Let's do Bolden. So let's take a different running back.
Can we wait on him though?
Bolden?
And take a running we
can take a running back.
We'll take Martinez.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah, I can't believe Chez Malusi is still playing. Chez Malusi was at Ohio State before Braylon Allen.
And they have a load of running backs too. Like Tawi Walker's coming over from Oklahoma. You're probably familiar with him. They have like Jackson Acker and Cade Yakimelli, who were like filling in last year for injuries. So yeah, that's probably a situation where Malusi probably only gets 10 to 12 carries in that kind of game. So it'll be tight.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't even know what is this team they're playing. WM's is
I think it's Western Michigan.
Incredible.
He'll be running through holes wider than you are tall. So
yes, yeah. So he definitely could knock that one out on one carry. But well, isn't Wisconsin? We think of Wisconsin as being this ground and pound or whatever, but they got Tyler Van Dyke. They're trying to play the air raid.
Yeah, well, Phil Longo came over as offensive coordinator. He's from North Carolina, so definitely a different type of offense. The last year was kind of a transition year. I think when you move away from that ground and pound where you have all these like offensive linemen who are just running the ball 40 times a game, like it's definitely a transition to a more balanced offense where you're throwing the ball more. Van Dyke's interesting because he looked awesome his first year and then like seems to get worse every season. So this change is probably good for him. We'll see if he's a good
Brock Purdy,
fit.
man. Brock Purdy was like going to win the Heisman after his freshman year, and then they got worse every single year. It just happens for these guys sometimes.
Yeah, you got to find your right spot. Remember Bo Nix at Auburn, like how much of a disaster he was, and he goes to Oregon and he's like amazing, and now he's like like a day one NFL starting quarterback
And
who
now
looks
I'm
actually
like
fun. Yeah.
yeah, my financial future is like tied to how well Bo Nix does in the NFL.
I
I
mean, yeah.
I mean, we can definitely take Bolden here and just keep scrolling. I was just thinking through the Ohio State stuff. I do kind of like Carnell Tate for this, just as kind of a way to fade the super high end guys. It seems pretty interesting. Yeah, DJU is getting worse every single season. It's like actually good in it relieving Trevor Lawrence of all. Trevor Lawrence is like on his second NFL contract, and DJU is still there, still playing.
Amazing. I'm trying to see if there's anybody playable on Colorado State
Colorado
against
State.
Texas.
They have a wide receiver, or did he transfer? I remember they had a pretty good wide receiver last year, but I bet he transferred.
Yeah, Horton.
Yes, is he still there?
He's not in the
definite transfer then. Torrey Horton.
I thought he was
He
still
played there. No, it says he's still there, but I guess maybe they're just not even the player. He was awesome last year. 96, 1,108 for like a very bad Colorado State team.
Are the Colorado State guys not even in the pool?
I was gonna say I bet they're not even in the pool.
Like the Akron guys aren't either. That's odd.
Treating Colorado State the same as Akron is fucking disrespectful. Underdog.
Do they just not have any of the power? Like you have to be a Power 4 team to be listed?
Yes, that's what it is. They didn't have player IDs from the best ball conference from the season long stuff, so they're just not in the player pool.
Okay.
Do you prefer? I think 2 running backs in college football a huge chunk of the time for the flex.
Yeah, like just look at the run rate in college compared to NFL. Like the average, we're definitely over 50% rush run rate as a whole in college football. And I don't believe that's the case in NFL.
Running backs just score like it's unbelievable how many fantasy points run. Like a shitty second running back on Texas A&M is going to score more than a lot of wide receivers. Like the college teams play a lot of college teams. Not every college team plays like 7 wide receivers in a game on average.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a lot different there. And early in the season, we don't really know the alpha.
If you're not correlating with your quarterback in these, you're dust. You're not going to win. All right,
I'm trying to scroll down for this last wide receiver pick. I have another like Felton's the clear one for Maryland. They're 20-point favorites. He's not getting drafted because I think Maryland's just going overlooked in this because there's a lot of uncertainty with their offense. But I think he's a clear wide receiver 1. So something you can't say with like Elijah Badger, who came over. He's not even running with the ones right now. So a lot of question marks. I feel pretty good about Felton's volume, and I think he's going undrafted in most drafts.
Yeah, that I like that. I like that call. It's figuring out the getting there before projections are out. Just getting to like whoever the equivalent of like the $4,800 wide receiver on DraftKings who's like stone chalk or whatever. That's definitely feels like the best way to win these.
Like you said, 11,000 entries. Like it's a pretty good tournament. Like payout super flat. They're quick to draft. Getting 150 though, a little bit of a chore on these.
Feels impossible unless you were just like really dedicated to it. Like you'd have to be doing like I guess 20 a day or something. Yeah, or like 25 a day.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll see how many I can fire off, but they're fun. It's just another way to play, diversify your action a bit. Definitely can get a jump on the field, I think, early if you know what's going on in college football. Like, do you know how often they update ADP on these? Is it once a day or?
That would be a better question for someone who like really grinds. Because like, and I would guess it works much quicker than how the best ball product does, where it's like kind of a 48-hour refresh. I would guess it's like an overnight 24-hour refresh. That's my guess. I personally would like if they would make it the entire Saturday slate, where it's not just the one primetime game, where they basically include, so it'd be about it'd be about what, 16 games or so if they included all the Power 5 teams that are playing on a given Saturday. Because then you just kind of you kind of have like infinite options. Like you could just scroll for whoever.
Yeah, I think it might change a bit as we move into the season. Like week 1 is just so many like not obviously non-conference games, but like a lot of these FCS games. So maybe they'll spread things out a bit more once we get into some of the conference play. But I think, what do you think the ideal like game size is? Do you think they'll push it more than this 9, maybe like 10 to 14 on a normal slate, or
9 feels too small when you're not including the non-Power 5, like, Torrey Horton not being in the pool, for example. I guess for like they're just trying things out. Like they're seeing what people like. There's like they don't know what these slates are going to look like. We don't know what the slates are going to look like. I think ideally you just have like every top 25 team playing in a given weekend, more or less, or whatever you want to have as little Kent State as possible, because it is really, it's not that fun to play the slates where Alabama goes up against Kennesaw and scores 75 points or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like Ohio State's a legit 50-point favorite on this slate. So
yeah, typically it is daily for NFL BRs, which is that seems about right. Yeah. I think you guys went away from this last year of doing 2 quarterback all the time on DK.
I think it was slate specific. Generally, it's 2 quarterbacks all the time, but like sometimes on a shorter slate, like 2 to 4 games, there are slates where like there's just like 4 alpha running backs and the quarterback pool is weak where it's viable. But yeah, I do how to beat college football DFS article on ETR. I believe it's free. Like it breaks down like what % of winning lineups have 2 quarterbacks and stuff. Last year was a little bit different in the quarterback pricing, in that they priced out a lot of pocket quarterbacks. So we'll have to keep an eye on quarterback pricing if it keeps going up. Definitely brings in different constructions into play, but kind of your default is just 2 quarterbacks. Like that's a safe default approach for building on DK.
Yeah, I think that is right. All right, let's go ahead and get out of here. Tell the people a little bit about the ETR college football product, and if this timing works for you, I mean, we should just do this. We should just do this more or less every week, assuming if the contests, this will be a direct challenge to Hope Bishop and to Numi and everyone at Underdog. Make the contest bigger, make them fun, get people excited about this, and Alex and I will keep doing these.
Yeah, so check us out on Establish the Run college football product. Cover every single slate of the year, projections and ownership. We have a top plays article for slates with more than 5 games, just the typical ETR style content with that. The GBP breakdown on Saturdays, focusing on large field. We do weekly shows. Discord's always popping. Definitely have to be in Discord to stay on top of all the injury news. That's one of the things I think we do best, is staying on top of the news, adjusting projections and ownership as stuff comes out. So pretty much just everything you need to play college football DFS competitively this year. Contests are never bigger, so definitely a great time to jump in. It's definitely a fun DFS game, and get you warmed up for the NFL Sundays all throughout the year.
It's for me, it's a great sweat because I don't play college football DFS as seriously. Like I'm not playing cash games, so I don't have to like super sweat it out. So it's just nice, you're a fall Saturday, you're walking the dog, you're going to you're doing whatever you got to do. You're one day of the week where you're not grinding your dick off, and it's just a nice, fun little sweat. And the ETR stuff is fantastic. Guys, I'm going to get out of here. I need to go outside and play with the puppies a little bit before the stream starts with Rich at 11 a.m. Central Time. I said the wrong time on the tweet. Make sure that you're checking out the Establish the Run DFS product. Make sure that you are, first off, subscribe to the channel, like the video, deposit on Underdog using promo code Davis, and I will see you guys back in 1 hour. Later, everybody.